on the topic of sitting in a room and surrounded by geniuses, you've been visiting the Perimeter Institute.
Nice segue.
Thank you. What are you still there now, or what was your role there?
I went. That's where I did my master's. Was at the Perimeter Institute.
Okay.
They have this 1-year crazy intensive course in theoretical physics. It's kind of like Part 3 at Cambridge. If anybody's familiar with that. And if you're a theorist, you might know what that means. And so I was there for a year, and I left, and then they ended all this YouTube stuff, and then after I started Minute Physics, they asked me to come back as an artist in residence. So I was there for a year as well. And so that
how was that?
Perimeter is a fascinating place. It's really, I think it's the biggest theoretical physics center basically in the world, in the sense that they have the largest number of purely theorists in one place, concentrated in one place. And on some level, it's really fun and really amazing because everyone is just so deeply into very deep physics. At another level, it's like whenever after being there for a while, whenever I went somewhere that actually had labs, I was like, wait a second, there's machines and we're actually testing the reality, and you're not just thinking about because a large amount of the work that gets done there actually is much more mathematical than physics. Like you're studying the math that underlies physics rather than studying the universe. Now there are definitely people there who do care much more about physics and study physics, but there is a large component, particularly in the string theory department side of things, that they admit that they
you had to name something, right?
Yeah, of course. But they admit, they freely admit. One of my best friends who's currently doing a PhD there freely admits that he studies mathematics. He doesn't study physics. He studies the mathematics that also applies to physics, but his particular research he knows is not applicable to our universe. So
I mean a lot of times that can be really useful because sometimes studying a special case that's not the case that we live in, about the geometry of the universe, can tell you some really important things and help you to extend that theory to our universe. But it is a little jarring sometimes when you go to these talks and you realize halfway through the talk that they're talking about a geometry of the universe that does not apply, and we know it doesn't apply in our universe. And you're sitting there and you're like, oh, but our universe is shaped completely differently than that, and this is a totally different universe they're talking about. And you have to kind of just put that in context and say, well, it's a step toward understanding our universe, but it is really a totally abstract, in the sense of not even existing in this universe kind of idea.
Yeah, that seems key. Especially for physics, right, which I kind of always like to think of a mathematical tool to describe reality, as opposed to just, as you say, running off into what do they call it, the string vacuum or the landscape? String landscape? Yeah, 10 to the 500. Is that the number?
I don't know where that number actually comes from.
Yeah, some crazy number that's too big to ever write or something or other. A lot of PhD projects in that.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming and chatting with us. We will put some links to Minute Physics, which you should all check out and watch.
Oh yeah, before we end, how does it feel to have like 8 million hits on the Unstoppable Force immovable object video, which is now linked because it's amazing.
There's an annotation right here.
It is somewhere floating right now.
I don't know. So that video is very weird because I made it and it didn't go viral right away. It's just been very consistently. Every month it's been getting another 600,000 or 800,000 views.
That's ridiculous.
And most of them, in fact, are coming from outside. Most of them, it's like Saudi Arabia or Egypt, really interesting places where the majority of these views are coming from. So clearly, this is a topic that the internet really likes, is what it says.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. I mean, that's the thing when you make videos. You make things that you're interested in, and you hope that other people are interested in them too. But you never really have a clue which ones are going to be the ones that other people really jump on, and once you make something, you kind of release it into the wild, and it has a life of its own online, and that's part of the fun of it, is that it's this kind of, I mean, I guess maybe that's why people have kids too, It's like you get to make something and then see what happens with it. And sometimes things that you don't expect to be successful will be, sometimes things that you thought were going to be amazing, no one likes. And maybe
just
you still,
like kids.
maybe so it's part of the fun of it.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Great. Well, thanks again. And,
thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll have a few other cool guests on while we're here, and
Yep. And hopefully I get a drink at some point.
yeah,
That's
we will.
key.
We will eventually end up in a pub. It's just at the moment,
It's just turned midday.
Yeah, it is a bit early. All right. Well,
Great.
thanks. See you next time.
See you.